Hello and welcome back to another video of VBA Precious, my Australian Brumby challenge partner for this year. This is week 12 and we are starting to introduce obstacles. So in the challenge we have one class which is an obstacle class, so this is a super important thing for her to be able to do. This is her very first day doing the obstacles, so we're just trying to tackle the bridge here. As you can see, she's still not confident about putting her feet on new things, which is fine, we can work on that, but I really do love her try to work things out and try to do her best. So we got her front feet on it, and then I also got her back feet on it when she walked over it. So now we're just trying again. I am representing her to the bridge, and here she tries her little heart out to not stand on it. And then as soon as she stands on it, I release the pressure and tell her with the good girl that she is doing what I want her to do. She knows now that good or good girl means she's been doing the right thing. So it's a cool little bridge word for her to work out what she's actually doing. So we represent and she does a little thing again where she tries to get away, so I just back her up a little and yield her hindquarters and get her to represent properly, and then I ask her again and she kind of does it but kind of doesn't really do it, so I just kind of back her up back to the start and we ask again. So I'm just kind of saying, hey, that's not really the right answer, how about we just try it again? And she does really well. She gets all 4 feet on the bridge and she walks across it super. She could be better, like there is still room for improvement, but she is doing really well for her first go. So now I am sending her out over it by herself to see if she can do it alone. And she does it really well. Good girl, Precious. So the next obstacle we try is the tyres. And you can kind of see here she's a bit nervous of putting her feet up on there. She doesn't know whether she'll sink in. She doesn't quite trust it yet. So I just keep asking. And she's really telling me here that she really doesn't want to go up on there. So in a second I do listen to her and I go, okay, let me just show you. So yeah, so I stand up on there to kind of show her that she can do it as well. And she goes, oh, that was kind of easy. And she gets all 4 legs on there. And I really like that she has a big lick and chew here and thinks about it, and she's done a really good job. And then for the bigger one I just automatically show her that she can do it. She has a bit of a sniff, checks it out a little bit. Got a few weeds growing in our tyres. But she does really well at getting up on there. She doesn't have too many problems about it. And she does really well. We did also walk her up and along it, but I didn't end up getting a video of that, so yeah. And then we tried the tarp, and I thought she was going to have like a huge fuss, because most horses have a huge fuss about the tarp, but that was her that first video that you just saw. That was her first look at the tarp ever, and she walked over it without a care in the world. It rustled and she didn't even care. It was really cool. So then I'm just sending her over it by herself. I always try and do that. I always try and like show them with me walking across something first that's like a bit scary, and then I'll ask them to go over it by themselves by sending them over it. But she does super well, so I wasn't really fazed. then I even see if we can get a bit of a trot over it. And she does really, really well. I was super proud of her. So now we are just doing a bit of Liberty work with Precious. This isn't her first time at Liberty. This is probably her second or third time at Liberty, so she knows how to go out on a circle, she knows how to come in and follow me a little bit, just the very, very basics. So we're trying just to up it a little bit and see what more I can do at Liberty. And I'm also going to, further in the video, try and see if I can get her to do a smaller circle around me. So previously I'd worked really hard on getting her to go out onto the big circle around the outside on the rail. So her coming in and following me in a small circle is quite difficult for her and she doesn't quite understand it. So we work a bit on that. Here I was just asking her to back up, but because I'd been doing a bit of hindquarter yield away and towards me, she kind of got a bit confused. And I kind of did it a little bit wrong. I should have corrected her when she started to hindquarter yield and asked her to back up again, but I didn't. So she gets a bit confused and goes out onto the circle. And then I ask her to come back in and she does really well. So every time she comes in, I give her a little reward, little treat rewards, keep her motivated. And I wait for her to finish her mouthful. She's a bit of a slow eater. So I'm asking her to back up again, and because she had a bit of trouble with it, I just waited for that one little step and rewarded. And then now I do what I should have done the very first time. When she goes to hindquarter yield, I correct her and ask her to move her hips back out onto the straight line, and then I ask again for the back up. And when I do this, she really understands it and she picks it up much easier. So you can see her bring her hips in and then she brings her hips out. That's me just asking for her to move her hips back out again with my whip. I wait for her to do a couple of steps of backwards without bringing hips in, and reward. I also use the whip as a cue to follow and a little whistle, so a little ask her to back up, and she does super this time. So she gets a good reward for that. Don't mind me rubbing my face. It's springtime and all the horses are losing all their coats, so I get really bad hay fever at this time of the year. So here I'm just asking her to do a bit of a side pass. Like, I think this is the first time I've ever asked her to do a side pass towards me. So I'm using one of my whips to act as a guide to not go forward, and then I'm using that other whip because she already knows kind of to come over towards me. So I'm asking her to hindquarter yield, and then I'm stepping back to give her the room to move her front legs over towards me. So it's kind of in a side pass direction. And she does pretty well for her first go. There's always room to improve. I love this part. She's like, oh, are we going back out in the circle? I'm like, not really, but come in. And she has the cutest like come. She really enjoys it, I think. She has a little trot and she always kind of has her ears forward. So there I was asking her to back up and she goes into that hindquarter yield. When she gets confused, because she is so good at the hindquarter yield towards me, that's just kind of like her go-to trick at the moment. So it's just kind of telling her, no, that's not quite what we wanted, and asking her again until she gets the right answer. So we kind of took a bit of a break from the Liberty work, and I thought I would introduce a trick to her. So I'm starting to introduce the Spanish walk. I always start with one foot first, and then I introduce the second foot, and then I introduce them both together, so the 2 feet, front feet together. So this is the very start. I'm just asking her to lift her leg when I tap, and then once she gets good at that, I then put a rope around their legs just so I can show them what I'm actually meaning when I tap their legs. I'm wanting them to actually lift and go forward with the foot. So I can just show them a little easier with the rope, and I find that this, if I do this, they just pick it up a little quicker. And I'll only do this a few times until they kind of start putting their leg forward instead of me pulling it. Once they start to get that kind of feel, I take the rope away. And I don't ever tie it to their leg, because if they ever have a bit of a spack out or they don't like it, then it can be easily removed. So that time, I think she actually gave her leg to me when I lifted it with the rope. She gave it forward instead of trying to pull it back, so I'm just rewarding. Every time she does a little bit of what I'm wanting her to do, I reward with food to really try and shape what she's doing into what I want her to do. So a lot of the times it's like, just see what they give you and you reward that, and you can eventually shape it into something, into a trick pretty much that you want them to do. And she does really well there, so she gets another treat. And I think we do it one more time and then I take the rope off, because she's starting to understand that I want her leg forward. Yeah, she does really well. So then she kind of like moved her whole body forward, which is again another kind of step towards the full Spanish walk, because you want them going in a forward movement when they do the Spanish walk. So I thought that was a good place to kind of finish and see if we can work it out without the rope. So she's gotten good now with lifting her leg when I tap, but I'm just waiting for like that bit more exaggerated movement. So there, when she lifted her leg fully up to her chest, I rewarded that as another step towards the Spanish walk. So it's not the movement that I want, but I find if I reward them at that stage, then they really quickly figure out that I'm wanting them to lift their leg higher and higher. There, she actually lifted it up and forward a little bit, so I also rewarded that movement. It's all about just rewarding the little movements that kind of look like a Spanish walk until they finally figure out exactly what you're meaning, until you do get the Spanish walk. And there, that was a really awesome try. So that, I'm now wanting to see that kind of movement consistently with that one front leg, and then when I go to change and teach her the second leg, that'll be the same movement that I'll be wanting from the other leg, and then eventually we'll put them both together and we'll try and get the two legs going at opposite times, and then so it looks like a Spanish walk. And then we incorporate the forward movement and the Spanish walk. And I also then refine my cues, so instead of actually tapping her leg, I'll have my smaller dressage whip, and I should be able to just flick it in her leg direction, and she should understand that that means Spanish walk. So that's kind of how I introduce the Spanish walk to any horse. Really, this is how I do it to all the horses. It's the way I've found works the best. It's all about repetition and getting that try a little harder. Getting them to really start thinking and try and work it out actually really well. She's so funny. When she takes the treat, she actually like really bites down into your hand, so you have to have your hand bent a bit so that she doesn't actually bite your hand. A lot of the Brumbies do that, and normally they quickly realise that they don't have to actually bite down into your hand to get the treat, and they'll just kind of snuffle it up like a domestic horse will, but Precious hasn't worked that out yet, so I have to be careful that she doesn't pinch my skin off my hand. She's such a funny little horse. She doesn't really like her head being touched still. It's still a thing, so every time I pat her on the face, it's ears flat. Really, are you touching me there? She's getting good at her back up. I'm starting to also introduce the back up now that I'm waving my whip in front of her and not actually touching her with it. So I'm really wanting to get that refined as well, so that eventually I can just kind of back her up from a distance. I don't have to be so close. I'm just trying to make sure she doesn't come out of the camera shot because she likes to come forward a bit. So because she'd been giving me the better steps when she did lift that leg that other time just before up to her chest, I didn't really reward that because she's kind of already starting to do the Spanish walk with that foot. So I'm really just making sure that I reward her when she does that good step like that, and she did really well. So this footage is all pretty much unedited. This is kind of pretty much exactly how I teach any horse to do the Spanish walk. This is kind of the process that they go through. In the weeks to follow, hopefully I will get some more footage of the Spanish walk, while teaching her the Spanish walk, and the next kind of steps we take to get her doing it with both feet and getting her to the stage where it looks more like a Spanish walk instead of just like her pawing at me. There we go. She's doing really well. So before I finish, I always try and mix it up a little bit and do something different, and then I'll come back and just kind of see whether they remember what I was asking before. So I now go out and just do a bit of a trot liberty circle. She does it really well at trotting around me, close to me, which we've been working on because at the start she found it a bit difficult to trot close to me on that circle, and she kept wanting to go out on the big circle, so I was really proud of her for that. And then yeah, and then after this we come back in and she does another Spanish walk step really well, so then I leave her there for the day. I hope to have a few more videos in the future of her being ridden, because she's progressed super well under saddle a bit more. We've done quite a bit of riding with her in the arena. We're starting to do a bit of leg yielding and getting her to work more on her frame, so hopefully we'll get some more videos of that soon if the weather clears up a little bit. But I won't be doing any more weekly videos with her, because she's kind of at that stage where we're just kind of doing the same thing a lot, just to try and work on building her muscle and fitness. So what I'm going to be doing is more vlogging type videos with her, any adventures she goes on, and anything new she's learning. I'll do more of like a vlogging type video of it, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and if you haven't already, please give it a like and a subscribe, as it really helps me out, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.